Okay, I had to put some lips on. Hello, Facebook. Putting on lips, put on my lips. And go get my notes. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am going live on TikTok. I'm on Facebook and on Hello. This is our last day of the week that we're going to go live. We go live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And here we are. And I thought we'd talk about something a little more serious today. And that would be about how I overcame depression and how I got it, how I realized I had it, and why it wasn't okay. Being depressed or having feelings was not okay at all in the world I came from. You're not supposed to be depressed. Hello, Miss Butterfly. Hi, BG. Hi, Fart Warrior. Okay. 50. Denise, welcome. Welcome. Glad you're here. I'm going to be talking about how I, number one, discovered I was depressed. I didn't know I was depressed. And then once I realized that I was depressed, then things started to change and I started to get myself better. And then I made a living helping people who were depressed to feel better and how to overcome it. It's really serious. Hi, Trey Bean. Bennett. Is it Benet or Bennett? Hi, Game Me. Bridget, welcome. Welcome. I see Anita. Anita, are you there? I see your picture there. I don't know if I should push on it or not. Toby, how are you? Welcome. Let me see. Okay. Banet. It's like French, right? My name is Deneuve, so it's kind of Benet, Trey Benet. Yes. Is it French? Are you Creole? Okay. So we're going to be talking about how I found out I was depressed and what I did about it and how I was able to help myself. And then let Creole. Great Creole. Yes, Trey Benet. It's like beignet. I'd never had beignets till I went to New Orleans. It was like, oh my God. So if you all could like our live, that more people will learn about it, it would help me a lot. I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so if you all could kind of do the thing like you like the live, it will help me. Thank you, Jesse. Jesse, appreciate it. Much appreciated. Transcend, Judith Baskin, Jesse, Heart Me. Hey, join my fan club. Yes. So I'm going to wait about another minute because I'm going to talk about depression and how I found out I was depressed. I went around and I judged people who were depressed. I thought there was something wrong with them. They were crazy, and not realizing that, that there was something going on with me. And I want to talk about, because you think it like being depressed is a weakness, but sometimes it's a biochemical, and you could actually inherit that from your family. So Amanda, how are you? Welcome. Trey Benet. Yes, she reached fan level 3. I love it. We celebrate you, Trey Benet. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we have 3 people kind of viewing on Facebook. And Anita, all right, stop everything. Our moderator has arrived. Anita is here. She has been with us through thick and thin. I have to laugh all the time. Anita has been here with us through thick and thin, and she doesn't take much stuff. She protects the room. She makes sure that no one comes here with a hatchet here. Hi, Michelle. Okay, we've had enough where I've kind of talked a little bit. Okay, so when I grew up in a Midwest. Glad you're here, Anita. When I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and it was a little town. It was a little town outside of Chicago. I don't even know how far, because when I lived there were no freeways. But I was in a town, and we didn't talk about mental health or whether people were, drank too much or anything like that. We would kind of whisper, like, I think that there's something wrong with them, but there was nothing. Peaches joined. Hey, Cassandra, Tish, Franklin. So, I grew up, thinking, that, you deal with whatever you dealt with. We did when I grew up. Hi, Cassandra. Thank you. Lisa, how are you? How are you today? Erica, Dari, Coleman, thank you. Thank you for joining. Chasita, is it Chasita? Yeah. Raylene joined us. So anyway, I grew up in this town outside of Chicago. It's a small town, very small. We didn't even have sidewalks. We didn't even have streets, really. We had gravel. It was gravel and everything. And can you imagine kids walking with their shoes on these rocks? Our shoes were going to tear up because we're walking on rocks. We didn't have sidewalks. And I'm just thinking about it. And then our family said, "You're so rough on your shoes. What are you doing?" That's right. She is beautiful, as are you beautiful, Anita. So, I'm just thinking, it just dawned on me, because we would get holes in the bottom of our shoes, and then we would put cardboard. I don't know what cardboard was going to do with rocks, you walking on rocks. But anyway, we grew up in this town, and it was very small. And when my parents they saved their money, and they bought this house. And the 3-bedroom house, it was brick. And, I think about it now, they probably charged them 3 times what they should have charged them for the house. Did my parents know they were like my parents? Let's see, if I was 7 when we moved in the house, that means my dad was 26, because he was 19 when I was born. And then my mother was probably 24. So they saved their money and they bought this little house. And again, there was no streets, no sidewalks or whatever. And, so you didn't think about, your mental health or whether you're depressed. You just like deal with it. Whatever it was that happened. If you had holes in your shoes, deal with it. If you were wearing hand-me-downs, deal with it. And do it with a smile. Do not complain. We couldn't complain. And we had to be grateful, that my parents were both there. And, that both of my parents, because a lot of kids didn't have both parents there. But we had both parents there, but they fought like cats and dogs. So we're living in this house where there's a lot of violence and fighting and arguing and drinking and all of that. And, as a kid, it's kind of shocking to you. And then also I was there, and my parents, they were so preoccupied with partying and drinking and their marital difficulties, and my father was a player. So um I was prey. Let me just say that I was prey. I was a little girl. I wasn't protected. My parents were so busy trying to make it. They're trying to make it on their own. And so I was prey. And you know what that means. And there were like boys around. In our neighborhood where we grew up, there was the neighborhood was, when we first moved there were only 7 houses, to show you how rural it was. There were only 7 houses, and there were weeds, and the weeds were us. We were taller than us, when we would build weed houses and stuff like this. And this is in a suburb of Chicago. Now we're like the suburbs. And so, but there were no girls in the neighborhood. They were all boys. And there was one girl, her name was Nancy, but she didn't want to have anything to do with me. I was 7 years old, and maybe she was 12 or 14, whatever. And so, but there were boys. But you guess what? Boys wanted attention, and I wanted a friend, And so I was prey. Right? And not to kind of get into too much in the weeds. I always talk too much. I always tell more than what I think I'm going to say. I don't know why. Anyway, so, I wanted to be friends, and I wanted to have friends. My brothers, I had 3 brothers. And at that time, 2 brothers. My younger brothers, one when I was 10. And so I would want to go outside and play too. I mean, I had a bike. I wanted to go play. Well, the next door neighbor, he wanted to have a little fun. So he would like take me on bike rides. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, I just wanted a friend. I just wanted, hi Tara, how's your hip today? This is emotional to talk about this. But anyway, so the next door neighbor, and he was like 6 years older than me. So that means if I was 7, then he was 13. Well, you can imagine right now, at the time, it didn't seem like that much of a difference. But you can imagine a little girl that's 7 years old playing with a boy who's 13 years old. You know what that's about, right? Oh, it was rough. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's hurting. Okay, I'm sending prayers your way, Tara. Tara had hip replacement surgery, and it is not, the healing is kind of rough for her. So let's all kind of say a little prayer for her. So anyway, this 13-year-old boy and me, he would like play with me, and he would like come and he'd play with me. And I was like naive and dumb and like, oh, I got a friend, and he wants to play with me, and I have a friend, so I'm not by myself. I'm not sitting in the house by myself. So anyway, you can imagine what started to happen. And I had already been taken advantage of by my uncle, who was the same age actually. And I often wonder, did my uncle tell him, oh, you try her or whatever? I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. So anyway, one day, he was doing whatever he was doing, whenever he was doing it. I don't remember any of the details, but I do remember this day that he said, come and let me ride you on my bike. And so I said, oh, okay. So I get on his bike, and he tells me he wants to do XXXXX to me. And for some reason, that particular day, I said, no, I don't want to do that. I'm tired of doing this. And so he says, well, if you don't do that, I'm going to ride over rocks and bumps, So he's going to ride the bike and make the bike ride bumpy until I say yes to let him do what he wanted to do to me, right? And so I'm still saying, no, I don't want it. So then he stops the bike. And this is like, shows you how naive I was. I was 7, he was 13. He said, something's wrong with my tire, my wheel. Look at it and tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's wrong with the tire. How's it? Like, he's 13, I'm 7. How am I going to know how to fix a tire? But anyway, I went over and I looked at the tire like a little dodo. And then he tackled me and threw me on the ground. And but whatever it was that day, I was sick and tired of doing the stuff he wanted me to do. And I was fought him back with all my little 7-year-old might. And I fought him back. And then he fought me back. And then he tried to put something, that's not very whatever, into my mouth, really. And I was not having it. And I was pushing back, pushing back, pushing back. And then he finally realized he wasn't going to get anywhere with me, and he let me go. And I ran home and I cried to my mother. So I go home. I've got like I said, it was no sidewalks. There was weeds everywhere. There was only 7 houses. So it was like in the rural area. And I walked home crying to my mother and told my mother what happened. And then my mother took me next door. And the thing that I felt badly about was I had let him do that to me before. And I got tired of doing it. I'm 7. He's 13. I don't want to do this. Anyway, long story short, his mother, whatever. And then guess who got to be on punishment? After that, I was not allowed to leave my yard. Now, I already didn't have any friends. So I had to stay in my own yard. Nothing to do. We didn't have TV or, you couldn't watch TV or whatever. So anyway, I was confined to my yard. And it was kind of like, I don't know if anyone's ever saw the movie, The Scarlet Letter. The book, The Scarlet Letter, where the woman had to wear an A because she had a baby out of wedlock. And so they called it The Scarlet Letter. I don't know if you ever read the letter. It's a classic book. But anyway, I felt like I had like a scarlet letter, like I was a bad girl. I couldn't leave my yard. I had to stay in, and everybody knew why. They all knew that I was, poison. I was poison and I was a bad girl. So, those kind of things happen to me more than I like to admit, because there wasn't anybody there to protect me. And it was just, I think I told you I was hit by a car when I was 5. My mother left me in the yard by myself. And so that's enough to make you're depressed. You know what I mean? You're traumatized. And so, you just keep going. I didn't think like, am I depressed? I just like, okay, I'm stuck in my yard. Okay. I'm by myself. Okay. These males are taking advantage of me. Okay. My parents are fighting. Okay. Okay. Break up my parents' fight. I was like the person to break the referee for my adult parents. And, but you never think how you feel. You don't think about how you feel. You just do whatever it is you need to do. And, and then my parents divorced, and then one thing, then another. So, I had a very deep depression, and I didn't know it. And how I dealt with the depression was my first love was sugar. Sugar and sweets and anything I could get to push down my feelings. Empress of Truth. How's Tony? Oh, he passed away. My brother died. Yeah. He's gone. He's been gone. Yep, he's gone. Anyway, yeah, that was, and then, my brother she asked about my brother, Tony. My brother was really abused, by my father and my other brother. And so we were just, I think the whole family was just sick and depressed. How my mother dealt with it was she drank. So how I dealt with it was I had sugar. If I could have sugar when I was a little girl, and then when I got older, I started to drink wine, and I mean I didn't like hard liquor, and I wasn't a big drinker because I couldn't drink. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's been gone. Yeah, it was very, very sad, very sad. Here's someone that knew my brother that passed away. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking he passed away before my dad. So I think he passed away a year before my dad. So I think he's been gone for 4 years now. He's been gone for 4 years. And he had cancer. Yeah, it was terrible. And I was like the character, my brother, he was 3 years younger than me. And then my mother always told me it was my job to watch my brother. And so took care of my brother. I mean, he had a rough life. And then at the end, he was passing away, and I was still there for him and saw him through to his last breathing day. My parents were gone, everybody was gone. I was there for him. So, anyway, you could just see all the things that were happening to me. And, and you don't, you can't like stay in bed. There's nobody to talk to about these things. You just have to get up and go to school or go to work or do whatever. So then when I got a little older, I would go and I would drink. And then I also, like, dating and stuff like that, dating the wrong people. So that was that was me. So when I got to be I was in my 30s. And when I got, okay, so here's what happened. I got married. I was married for 10 years. And then at 10 years, we divorced. And then I think I stayed in Illinois for 5 more years. And then I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. I moved to California and didn't have any family there. I got to get away from these people because they all were, I was the only girl. I was the oldest. And I don't know why they just didn't like me. It's like I was like not, I don't know what it was. It was like they thought I was high and mighty. They said that I was sedity. Do you know what sedity? Who knows what sedity means? Who does? Tell me. Sedity. That's what I was always called. Sedity. Tara, what is sedity? Do you think I'm sedity? Who knows? Who has the definition of sedity? I should look it up in the dictionary. Stuck up and snobby. Yeah. Yeah. So stuck up. Yeah. So they always thought I was sedity. You're sedity. So anyway, they kind of labeled me with that because number one, I'll tell you the truth, is that I kind of knew like this is all crazy. You know what I mean? I was looking at these people fighting and drinking and all of that. And I was like, this is crazy. And I knew that I wanted better. I wanted better. I did not want to grow up and stay in that kind of environment. I didn't want to. And so I would read books and, I would do things or try to get out of that environment, just somehow, if I could. I remember, and this isn't to be racially thing, but, when I was a kid, I have to tell you this other thing too. Thank you, Anita. When I was a kid, all right, I had to go to an all-white school. And I had to go to an all-white school. We were bused to this white school. Down in Birmingham, they were having, the National Guard and all these things for Black kids to go to regular school. They just was crazy. Well, we were we were bused in and it was quiet. There wasn't anybody standing in line or anything. We just got to the bus and we were sent to these schools. And So I went to this school and grew up, all through school, going being like the only black kid in the class. And so, you know, I talked, I kind of talked like the people that I went to school with. And library across the street, I go to the library. And because for whatever reason, because I didn't do a lot of homework because at home it was too crazy and I did not do a lot of homework at home. So I was probably really smart and could have been like an honor student. I mean, one time I tried to be an honor student and I was, but I would always test for accelerated. So I'd always be in the accelerated classes, especially like accelerated English and accelerated this and that. So anyway, my family, they just kind of like, oh, she's so sedity. But the only thing is that I just thought it was crazy what was going on. I thought for my mother to have to beg my father for 2 or 3 cigarettes to get through the day when he was driving a Cadillac and had really sharp clothes and went to play golf and he worked 2 jobs. My dad worked 2 jobs, always 2 or 3 jobs, and also tried to have a business. He was very entrepreneurial. But, my mother, so I would think like, this is crazy. Or I would look at my mother and that she would like take all the stuff from my dad. And I'd like, oh, why's she doing that? Or that she would let him hit her, and she stayed. And that's just how it was. So somehow or another, when because, where I went to school and how I read books, that I just thought this was crazy. And I wanted to get out. So anyway, after I finally, my husband and I divorced, I talked all about that yesterday. If you haven't seen that live, go look at it. I said, I'm moving to California. I want to learn more about life. I this little backwards little town, and nobody wants you to win. Have any of you ever been in an environment, tell me the truth, where if you try to do something better or you try to be better, they hate you? That they don't like you, they beat you down? Have you ever had that? It was, Lisa, a lot of dysfunction in my family, a lot. It was just crazy, and I look back now and I was like, boy, that was really crazy. No wonder I was depressed. Because you just, but and then they don't like you. I don't know, whatever it was, they didn't like me. they didn't like me. My mother didn't like me because, thank you, Tara. My mother didn't like me because my father, who was a player, only way he knew how to relate to females was like in this kind of sexual overtone kind of thing. You know what I mean? Inappropriate. My dad never touched me, never. But the relationship was not the way a daughter, and I was the only girl and I was the oldest. So when my father and mother were mad at each other, which was 70, 80% of the time, he, used me. And I was like his little pet. So, Pammy, will you go wash my socks? Will you go wash my underwear? He's mad at my mother. You can't go to the grocery store. You're my mother. You can't go to the grocery store because you were bad. So he would take me to the grocery store and then, come watch the game with me. So I was like a daddy's girl. I'm like, and all girls are, I was just being a little girl and I wanted somebody to like me. And my dad would work 2 jobs. He was gone most of the time. But anyway, so my mother was very angry with me because I was like the other woman. Yeah, he did, Lisa. Absolutely he did. And so my mother didn't like me. So she'd call me gooseneck and nappy head and ugly and you look like this and you're that. So she really never really liked me. So my mother didn't like me. My brothers were really beaten a lot by my dad. I wasn't. So they were, for whatever reason, he didn't beat me like he beat my brothers, but he beat my brothers like he'd be put in under the jails the way he did my brothers. And so they didn't like me because like, why did I? And this tells you the whole story, okay? My dad would take me out to a fancy restaurant for my birthday. Nobody else. He didn't buy anybody else a card. He didn't buy my mother a card. He didn't take my mother to out for her birthday or remember her card, but he took me. So you know how everybody felt about me, right? You know how they felt about me? You know, so, and I just like, oh, daddy's taking me out for my birthday. I'm so happy, you know. Not really. My mother's over there furious. So anyway, that was what I grew up in. My mother, Nay, here's how my mother looked. My mother was beautiful. My mother, in fact, they grew up. My parents grew up in Winter Park, Florida, not far from you know where I live now in Jacksonville, 2.5 hours away. But my mother was like, you know, okay, let's just be honest about this whole thing, right? My mother was very, very light skinned. She had hazel eyes, and she had good hair. Everybody told me, like, when I was a little girl, I said, when I get big, I want to be pretty like my mother. And they would be like, you know, you're not. You know, I was brown skinned, I had kinky hair. We were really skinny because we didn't have a lot to eat. Thank you, Tara. But anyway, so everybody, my mother was very pretty, and I was very homely. I was homely. I look at my pictures. I was homely. So I was homely, and I was ugly. They thought it was ugly. My mother, you just looking ugly. So, but I was my dad, and my dad was very dark skinned. And anyway, I was like the middle between that. But you know, when they compared me to my mother was light skinned with good hair and hazel eyes and all that, all the things. You know, people used to objectify all that. And then I was brown skinned, and you know, I didn't have any of those attributes by my mother. And so they thought I was ugly. And I grew up always thinking I was ugly. In fact, when I was a teenager and boys started looking at me, I didn't know why. Thank you, Nay. I didn't know why they were looking at me because I, you know, everybody in my family told me I was ugly my whole life. So anyway, I dealt with it. Whatever it was, I dealt with all the stuff I dealt with. And then I got married, and then that was a bit chaotic. And I was married for 10 years. The only thing I think that saved me is when I was 18, I became very religious. And I think I became religious because I would have gone crazy. I think I would have either like started using drugs like most of the people in my age bracket, or gone crazy. So I became religious. I was religious for 10 years. And I think that saved me because when other people were out there doing all the other stuff, I was like studying the Bible. Me and my husband, we were studying the Bible. So I think that, you know, that was like a saving grace because there was just so much around me, so much around. And, you know, you have to keep in mind when I became like, when I was like, you know, 18, this was when Kennedy was assassinated and Martin Luther King was assassinated and Bobby Kennedy was assassinated and Malcolm X was assassinated. And all of that stuff, you know, it wasn't safe. It didn't feel safe anywhere. So when I was able to get to religion and like the Bible, you know, kind of helped me, then that saved me during that period of time. By the time I was 28, I'd had enough of that. And I went back out in the world, so to speak. And, you know, I realized that I had blocked out all of my childhood. I literally blocked out. I didn't remember any of the stuff I'm telling you about about my family and all that. I didn't remember any of it. I was in my 30s. I didn't remember it. And so I was like just repressed. Like I had all this stuff in me, all this stuff in me. And I was like, and I was single. I had 2 kids. I had to provide for them. My ex-husband never paid a penny towards our children. So therefore, I was just whatever it took. I literally, when I moved to California, I mean, everything was really expensive. So I, would have office jobs, but in the evenings and weekends, I cleaned houses. I mean, not cleaned, yeah, I cleaned houses and offices. I did anything. I always worked 2 jobs because I had these 2 kids and one income in California is very expensive. And that's what I did. That's how I made it. That's how I made it. So, and people would talk about, I lived in I lived in Southern California. I lived in a town called Playa del Rey, so near the beach. So, uh, so anyway, I just worked really hard, and I felt like, if I just worked really, really hard, I would outrun the depression. I think that's what I thought. If I stay busy and I ignore it, that I will get away from the depression. I will get away from it. But I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't know I was depressed. I just know that something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what. So one day I met this woman, and she was very, very wealthy. I mean, I don't know if any of you know what the Rand Corporation is, but it's a huge corporation. And her husband was one of the founders of Rand Corporation. And she lived in Pacific Palisades, California, very wealthy. And she was also a therapist, and she kind of saw what was going on with me. And she asked me to give me her number, and she was going to call me to help me. So I said, well, okay, I'm desperate. I'm desperate at this point. And so, this really wealthy, white woman comes up to me, and she's like offering to help me. So she kind of took me under her wing for whatever reason. Oh, your daughter works for Rand Corporation? Okay. This woman's husband, they're both dead now, but this woman's husband was one of the founders of Rand Corporation. And they lived in Pacific Palisades and had a home in Hawaii, Kauai, I think. So she was very, very wealthy. And for whatever reason, it was God or whatever, she took me under her wing. And she said to me, you need to go to my therapist. That's what she said. You need to go to my therapist. And at the time, I did have very, very good insurance. I had good insurance. And so I went to her therapist. And this is what happened. I went to the therapist. Now, let me tell you what I was doing in my life at the particular time. I was a part of the, what was it called? The Civil Air Patrol. The Civil Air Patrol is people who go after planes that have gone down. And I don't know what I was doing there, but anyway, the Civil Air Patrol, they were training you how to radio. It's all a blur now. I don't know what it was. I don't know how I got involved with it, but I'm like, trying to do things to run away from my depression. So I'm in the Civil Air Patrol. And then I like horses. I guess you all have seen, like, Greg has gotten me, like horse riding, whatever. So, anyway, thank you, Tara. She's supported me. Like, tap on your screen so I can get support from TikTok. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I always like horses. And the reason I like horses is that when I was a little girl, my dad always told me one day we're going to have horses. We never got horses. We lost our house. I mean, our house was foreclosed on when I was 17 years old. So, there weren't going to be any horses. But anyway, I was living in this little town in California, and these people had a horse. And they said, we go see our horse. We have a thoroughbred racehorse, and we go to Riverside to go see our horse. And I said, oh, could I go? Could I go see your horse? And they said, yeah. And I was always away. I don't know why I was always around these really wealthy people. And so I went with them on Saturday morning, got up really early to get up like at 6 o'clock and go see these horses. So I would go out and I'd go see the horses. Well, I'd go there and walk the horses and be around the horses and all these rich people and horses. I didn't care about them. I care about the horse. And this one lady said, would you like to have your own horse? And I'm like, oh, can I have my own horse? Can I have a horse? So yeah, here you pay. You can pay if you all you do is pay for its food and board, and you can have this is your horse. So they gave me, it was a little colt, and she named her Pam's Promise. I know why she named it Pam's Promise now. I didn't realize it then, but it was like, you promise that you're going to take care of this horse because, you know, on a ranch, they have all these horses and all these expenses, and they need someone to pay for the horse. So here I was a good sucker. I was there. I loved the horse. And so I'd go there and I'd take carrots for my horse. So anyway, I'm telling you, going backtrack. So I was going to therapy, right? I mean, the woman sent me to therapy. And so I'm like, I'm part of the Civil Air Patrol. And then there were the 99s at the Civil Air Patrol. There were women who were in World War II who all had, some of them had planes, and they meet at the airport. And I don't know, I don't even remember how I met them, but that they were the 99s. That's what they called them. The 99s. And they usually at every airport, they have 99s, which are women pilots. So then I got to go with women pilots and fly with them. So, I mean, I was like around flying and Civil Air Patrol and horses, and I had a good job. You know, I worked for, I had a company car and all that. So anyway, I go to this therapist, and the therapist says, okay, so the woman's name was, I won't say her name because she passed away, but I don't know. Let's say her name was Annie. Okay. Anne sent me to you, which he was her therapist. Can you tell me why you think she sent me to you? So I said, well, I don't know why. That's what I told her. I don't know why. I have a good job. I have a horse. I go to the Civil Air Patrol. I go to the 99s. And I only have one little problem. And that problem is men. I remember saying that. The therapist did this. He did this. He took the denial I had that I was depressed. He took, it was like if you know, if you have a big balloon, if you have this really big balloon. Oh, hi, Janice. I'm glad you're here. The balloon, you have this big balloon, and somebody takes this really sharp pin and pops the balloon. That's what he did to me. He burst the balloon of my denial. And I was a puddle. I was crying all the time. I started having flashbacks, and I was a mess. And the pain that I had, because all these years I didn't feel the pain. I just push her down. And burst the balloon, and all of a sudden memories started coming back, and I would wake up and I would cry, and I'd remember this and I remember that, but not like remember it. I would feel it. It would be like I was experiencing it for the first time. It wasn't just like a memory. It was like I was experiencing that again, everything, all these things that I had forgotten. And I was a mess. I was such a mess. It was so hard to go to work. Thank God at that time I was working from home, and I would like, it felt like to get dressed. It felt like it took like a job. Like it took every energy just to get dressed. Does anybody ever had that kind of experience? I mean, it was like, ah, I thought the pain I experienced, I thought I'd never be myself again. I felt so lost in that pain and memory that I had suppressed my whole life that I could hardly breathe. And I, and I couldn't, like I got I totaled a car. I was in an argument with my son. I totaled my company car, and then I got another car, and then I worked as a pharmaceutical rep, so I was like driving all over LA to these different hospitals. And so this woman, the woman I told you about, we say Anne, who sent me to her therapist, and I was just crying all the time, and I can't function. And she said, you need to go inpatient. And you have good insurance. Call your insurance and see if they will let you go to this really is a really expensive place in Phoenix, Arizona. And I called the place, and they said they'd take me. I had the insurance. Hi, Sharon. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. So I was like, okay. I mean, I was in so much pain. I didn't have any fight in me. I just went. And so I went to this place, and I had to just detox of all. It was a inpatient treatment place. I'll tell you the name of it. It was called Sierra Tucson. You might can Google it. It's to Sierra Tucson. It's very, very, there were celebrities there, from really big groups. Yep, there were a lot of people there, doctors, nurses. I mean, it was very expensive. I just so happened I worked and I had good insurance. And I was in there for 37 days, and I got my head back. And that's what it took, and you would go to class all day, and you would like learn about this. And I learned about all the repression, and I learned about, my dad's relationship. I didn't know my dad's and my relationship was unusual or wasn't healthy, because you're a kid. That's all you know. And a leave from my job. Yeah, they gave me, because you're having a mental thing. I'm trying to think. I think my kids were grown. My kids were my son wasn't. So I think I must have had some friend or someone kept him. You know what? I don't even remember. It's all a blur. Yeah. So, I'm feeling this as I'm sharing this with you. So, anyway, I realized, so how did I feel when I left? Okay. So when I left the place, I was like a raw egg, because I was so, I've so opened up. I was like that. I came out, and it was like cars were moving fast, because I was at this place. It was just like this peaceful place, and I was healing. And thank you, Tara. And I came out, and I was very, it seemed like life was moving so fast and all of that. And I still had to go back to work, and I'd do all this stuff. So the woman, Anne, she, I came back because she told me to go there. I came back, and she says, okay, I want you to go to this group, and this person will help you. And so I did. I went to this group, and I just healed myself. I started healing. I started remembering. Janice over here. we've got Sharon, we've got Sandra, and we got Renee, all from Facebook. We have our Facebook friends here. And so when I came back, I slowly changed a lot. And I'm going to tell you something that I did. I remember I told Greg this. Greg was like, what? But I changed my last name. Okay. So my name at that particular time was my husband's last name because I'd been married. And, when you're married, you have your husband's last name. Well, this man never took care of his kids. And, okay, do I want to walk around the rest of my life with his name? No. Should I want to keep his name? Tell me, yes or no? You think I should have wanted to keep this man's last name because he was my husband? Yeah. I said, no, I don't want his last name. No. This was the biggest thing I did for myself. I took my own name. So then I said, should I take the name of my family, my father? They were abusive and crazy and beat and, and all kinds of things. Should I take their last name? Yes or no? What do you think? Should I go take my maiden name of my father? No. Lovebug said yes. Mr. Parker says yes. No. These were people who abused me. And so I gave myself my last name. I have my name. And who was that? Somewhere where she was telling me that it's Creole. I'm not Creole, but I took a French name because it means new. And I gave myself my name. That was my first step. Like, I'm claiming me. I'm not going to be identified with people who have not been good to me. If that's being, what do they call it? Sadity? Fine, so be it. Like, I want my own name. And I did it legally. My license, I did everything. That was the first thing I did when I got out of there. Like, my name means something, and I get to have my name. So that was the first thing. Sharon says she changed her name. It was like getting a new start. It was like getting a new start. Like, it's like a rebirth. Lisa, you thought about changing your name? Yeah. I love my name. I do. I love my name because it's my name. So let's see we're almost at the end. Okay. So what I started doing was I began to help other people. Yeah, my name does match me, doesn't it? I love my name. And I wanted it to be international because I always wanted to travel. And I do travel. I mean, in fact, Greg and I are going to go to Portugal in September, but I've gone to Portugal myself twice. I've gone to Spain and Paris and England and Scotland and Netherlands Antilles and Mexico. Yeah. So I claimed my name. And I wanted to be international. And then the other thing was, I'm going to have to share with you next week, is how I began the work that I'd started to do. And it all happened. Gosh, my life. I mean, when I tell you all the tragedies that happened in my life. Oh, you late, Mocha. Oh, Rose. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I'll tell you another tragedy in my life on Monday that tells you more about my journey. Yeah. Yeah, it does. You know what I mean? And now, I'm very sad. My ex-husband, who's been with 7 wives since we and I broke up, and I've been with no one. I mean, Greg and I are engaged, but we live 50-50. I still have my own home. And, you know, I, you know, I have created my life. I created my life. And it started with me creating my name. And I'll tell you a little bit more, about how I worked more on the depression. It's a lot to tell in an hour, but I hope did you all like my story so far? I mean, it's embarrassing to tell you all this stuff, but anyway, I tell it to you. Uh, so if you got value from it, please say yes. Let me know. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Trey Benet. Thank you, Nay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Miss Butterfly. Yes, Miss Parker. Yeah, 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 yeah. I am a survivor for sure. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, you can go on Facebook and find this. Anita, could you put the link? Okay, so we have um I have it's about my work, and you could talk to me. Let me see, I'm going to put this over here. You could take a test, an X-ray, to see where you are. This is some of the work that I did. So I'm going to put this here in the Facebook so you have it. Okay. I think I got it there. Okay. So, yes. I want you to go to do the quiz, do a quiz, and you'll kind of see what your level of happiness or depression is. It's 10 questions. It takes 2 minutes. And click on the link and go there. If you can't get it here, go on my profile, click on take this survey. It's a survey or test or something, or quiz. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Butterfly. Anybody have any questions? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like perspiring. It's like I tell you these stories. No, my mom drank herself to death at 41. 41. I lost my mom. So it was a lot, when I look back now, because there was so much abuse and insanity in my family. My brothers did not fare well. One brother, I was probably the most normal. My one brother, he died in his 50s, and he became a recluse, and he beat women, and it was terrible. And then my other brother was a heroin addict for 30 years. And thankfully, I was able to help him get sober. He came to Florida. I sent for him to Florida. He got in recovery, and he was sober the last 13 years of his life. But he passed away. He was in his 60s, I guess. He was 3 years younger than me. So, yeah, it was hard. It was hard to watch. And that's what made me I'm not going to be with a man. I'm not going to let a man do that to me. And never, ever, ever am I going to be like weak and mushy for a guy. And here I am at 77 doing this. I don't know why. But anyway, that's what happened. So I want to talk more about this because it's important. And this is where I feel like right now I'm 77, and what am I saving all this for? If I can tell you my stories and help you or give you hope, why don't I do that while I'm here? Why don't I do it while I'm here? Why don't I tell you what I'm doing to stay young and what I'm doing to stay healthy? I think if I had kept all that stuff inside and not worked on myself and kept it in and hadn't gone to the therapy, I think I wouldn't be alive. I don't think I would be alive. I don't think I could hold all that stuff I was holding. It was like poison. It was like I had all this poison in that I didn't even know was there, and I had amnesia about it. And Tara, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. So, getting all that out so I can talk about it now. It's not like easy to talk about it, but it's good to talk about it. It's good to talk about it, and it's good to share it with you because, maybe something that I say might help you. Thank you. Thank you, Nay. Thank you, Anita. Okay. So anyway, here's today. I'm going to be back next Monday. Don't let me forget. I'm going to talk about what happened that put me on the journey that I'm on now, because that was a traumatic thing. Hi, Yolanda. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And we will pick up this story. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Tara. I'm glad to hear that. So we're going to pick up this story on Monday. Okay. Go to the link and do the questionnaire because it's going to help you too. All right. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.